This movie was a pleasant surprise in that initially I didn't expect it to pique my interest. The plot takes a different approach to vampiric entities than we usually see, getting away from the tired Dracula-style tropes like neck biting by night while living as a recluse by day. Focusing on a group of representatives from their cabal that's linked to the entity offers a spin that allows the audience to examine and dissect the film under the same lens as Satanic Panic. Rather than hunting people for blood, this film is centered around three families and the rituals required for them to essentially renew their contract with the demon they worship as their master. One of the most consistent hints at ritual sacrifice used throughout the movie is the use of red to denote the candidates intended to be offered up. In the occult, the color red has a number of associations and uses. Going all the way back to ancient Egypt, the color was linked to death, but more importantly, it was specifically tied to Typhon, a demon manifested in the form of a dragon, identified with the god of destruction, Set. This bit of information going in makes it interesting when we notice that in the movie, a depiction of the dragon is a prominent centerpiece on this unholy property. Throughout the film, the antagonist, Walt, never actually calls himself a vampire. He does, however, consider himself a god, proclaiming that his most beloved moniker is the son of the dragon. Just as in Satanic Panic, we see reference to an archdemon so high-ranking that they're often synonymous with the devil. Revealing himself to be son of Typhon also puts Walt in that same tier. In mythology, Typhon has actually attempted an attack on the heavens before his defeat and banishment. It makes sense that the offspring of such an entity would require rituals that also make mockery of holy rites and concepts. Just as the Baltine bonfire is used to mock the Immaculate Conception, Walt's initial blood ritual is an inverted take on the Christian First Communion. As a pledge of allegiance, each of the chosen family bloodlines must offer up a bride to the demon Walt, not unlike a convent of nuns being referred to by some as brides of Christ. These sacrificial concubines are then led through a black mass, complete with witnesses, as they ingest the blood of Walt for the first time to forever link the bloodlines to the demon. Individually, each of the three women gains a taste of the abilities Walt possesses, but it's only when three women are collectively bound to the demon that the family members within the cabal can also benefit. The bonding of three women solidifies the union, allowing all members to defy the aging process and live indefinitely in good health and prosperity. That is, so long as the incarnation of the demon lives. This concept, like the first example, can very well be viewed as an attempt to invade our psyche and feed off of the reservations we have about the unknown aspect to the lives of the elite. But once again, is this really the only motive when the majority of people aren't going into the film with knowledge of Typhon? The majority of people really don't understand the significance of the dragon. Can Walt really be considered a vampire based solely on his blood consumption? It's well known that blood offerings are tied to the worship of demons in reality. Although this movie insinuates that Walt feeds on human blood, we never see him bite for it. Instead, one of his henchmen waits until the witching hour of 3 a.m. to recite a verse in Latin, summoning the demon. Each victim essentially goes out as a blood sacrifice rather than the typical vampire attack. The idea of selecting specific women deemed worthy for such a union has similarly manifested in real life. For example, we only need to look at the current star of The Flash and Fantastic Beasts star Ezra Miller. Ezra made news for keeping a young woman from her family, whom he selected for her bloodline. This was done under the belief that he himself, like Walt, is a demon who also fancies himself a god. More specifically, he's said to view himself as both Jesus and the devil, choosing this young woman in particular to empower them both under their union. In the movie, the idea of Walt needing three brides is an inversion of the Trinity, while the blood rituals feed more into the notion of the rich needing to make human sacrifices to maintain the bargains made for their souls in devotion. On the opposite end of the spectrum, society expresses the same concerns whenever we hear about someone's fast rise to fame, especially within the entertainment industry. From music to Hollywood to the sports world, the list of names with the death of a loved one attached to their pre-stardom success stories is staggering. Now, logically, it's no secret that everybody loses somebody since no one lives forever. But what scares people about the list is the idea of fame costing you someone you intended to save with the opportunity. In horror films, this scenario plays out effectively because it reflects the greed we fear people are capable of for the right price and enough desperation. The idea of selling your soul to become an idol, whether literal or through selling out your morals, seems to get explored a lot. An interesting example of this type of bargain can be found in Snoop's 2006 movie, Snoop Dogg's Hood of Horror. Filmed in the grindhouse style of the 70s, this movie is a 4-story anthology including the animated intro story. In the last story, we drop in on a struggling rapper's most humble moment. He prays sincerely, asking to be blessed in his career, promising to essentially set a righteous example for those his music can reach. Within moments of him finishing his prayer, Saad, which stands for Succeed or Die, meets his soon-to-be best friend and producer, their chemistry carrying them to work immediately. They create an organic buzz, and the next thing we know, Saad is receiving an album award alone. And during his acceptance speech, we learned that his counterpart, Quan, is now dead. Though the unemotional mention of Quan's passing was brief during his speech, once backstage, it raises an eyebrow when Saad suddenly seems to be grieving in front of his entourage. Bottle in hand, Saad explains that this award night happens to be exactly 1 year to the night Quan was shot dead. Between trying to convince the room of how broken up he feels about his boy not being there to enjoy the moment, and trying way too hard to flex his power with fits of aggression, Saad looks like somebody battling a guilty conscience. Before his humiliating demand could be met by a woman in the room, a knock at the door interrupts everything. After answering the door, Saad finds that his entourage has vanished in the room, after which he lets in the woman he believes to be a member of the press. What he's too arrogant to realize, even once the door disappears in front of him, is that his judgment night is now officially underway. She cues up some memories on the screen, and segment by segment, we get a full scoop of how things really went from an up-and-coming duo to an award-winning solo act. Turns out that despite his heartfelt prayer and promise to strive to be a better man, what Saad really wanted was a path to be his true self. The power that comes with fame and money would allow this for him. In the first memory, we see that with Quan in the driver's seat, their buzz would eventually catch the attention of the labels. It's also easy to see that Saad has already started tripping, showing signs of surrendering to his ego before the deal was even inked. After making some crazy demands to the label execs during their very first meeting, Saad's temper tantrum almost cost them their deal. It's Quan who was able to smooth things over, even receiving an offer to go solo himself moving forward. Quan would opt out though, choosing to remain silent and keep his friend in the picture. It would be the last straw for Quan, however, when Saad's involvement with an underage girl would make headlines. The confrontation causes a rift between the two, Saad making it clear his motives for rapping have nothing to do with making music. But in the following memory, it appears that before his court date and having to possibly do time, Saad gets Quan to make a store run with him. Once inside, the two are rushed by a masked dude who draws down and starts to rob the place. The dude tells Quan to cough it up, and after he refuses, the dude knocks him back with a fatal shot. After turning the gun on Saad and giving him a shot to the shoulder, the shooter runs out without even taking anything from either of them, or even a cent from the register. That's because what was staged to look like a typical robbery going bad was actually a sacrifice, Psy's key to the next level, and the reason he would go on to win Best New Solo Artist of the Year. The shooter was no random dude, but Psy's professional bodyguard. On top of wearing the vest for the store run, Psy brought in someone who was a certified shot, guaranteeing that Quan's shot would be a fatal one while his own would be a flesh wound. Now, this plot may have been made to scare viewers way back in '06, but is it only a scary story when the circumstances can apply to today's world now more than ever? Just months ago, the internet was abuzz as people watched the YNW Melly trial. Under circumstances fitting to Snoop's self-proclaimed cautionary tale, after a rapid rise kicked off his rap career, Melly is currently still looking to prove his innocence after allegedly staging the murder of his two close friends to look like a drive-by. Like Quan, one of the victims is also credited for essentially getting the would-be group started by creating the YNW brand. The rapper DaBaby saw his career take off after being cleared for fatally shooting someone in a store in self-defense. Once more, this story also parallels a couple of details from Snoop's own murder case as well as the intro story. Before becoming the superstar he's known as today, Snoop's bodyguard also shot and killed someone from the seat of his Jeep. An incident led to the feuding vehicles traveling to another location where the shooting would occur. So with that said, the question still remains, where is the line drawn between entertainment and art imitating life, hiding a lot of truth in plain sight? I hope these breakdowns illustrate that while it's easy to see that the idea of sacrifice for money and fame is used to scare an audience in plenty of movies, the ways that the rituals are depicted, the people that are depicted doing them, and the reasons they do it come from very real practices from the past and many customs that have been found alive and well in our world today. If what you heard made sense, don't forget to hit the like button and help other people trip out. If you enjoyed this breakdown and would like to stay in the loop for future episodes, click the subscribe button too. That way we can keep you up to speed whenever new content is posted. If you can think of other examples of the truth being hidden in plain sight, or foreshadowing, or even predictive programming in other movies or TV shows, please feel free to drop it in the comment section below. I'll be glad to cover any piece that you all may have picked up on as well. Thank you all for tapping in, and I hope to see you in the next session of Chop Shop here on Chop GTV. Easy.